All right, thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Pamela Reed, and I am the Managing Director of Community Programs here at the Venture Center. And it is an honor to be able to offer to you for today's Lift the Rock with our MedTech Startup NeuroMedPro and the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. Today we have Rebecca Todd, who is the Innovation Specialist at the ASBTDC for short. And then we also have Lilla McManis, who is the CEO and founder of NeuroMedPro. Thank you so much for being here, ladies, today. And so to get us started, I want to thank our sponsors. We have some great sponsors for this program. What Lift the Rock does is it gives us an opportunity to highlight the great work that's being done by entrepreneur support organizations in the community. And it also gives us an opportunity to launch and kind of bring awareness to the great work that's being done in Arkansas around innovation, technology, and all sorts of programming. And so as you see, we have Simmons Bank, we have Frost Accounting, Wright Lindsay Jennings, and the Little Rock Chamber, who is a partner that we, really appreciate. We appreciate them all for being able to sponsor these programs and give us an opportunity to help entrepreneurs become great and more successful in the community. So we have some really great things coming up. One is our JOLT Cybersecurity Challenge, and we look for participants for this program from K through 12, usually 11th and 12th graders, on up through professionals. And what this program gives us an opportunity to do is help those that are interested in coding, those that are potentially interested in finding new talent, that are coding, that are doing cybersecurity, and that are making a difference as it relates to that particular industry. They have an opportunity for a weekend-long program where they come and they're challenged with all of these games that help them to kind of reinvigorate and re-energize the skills that they already have in some cases, and then for other people they learn new ones. And so if you want to know more about JOLT, it's on our website at adventurecenter.co, and also a fireside chat that we're doing on October the 20th with Jim Keat. If you don't know, Jim Keat is definitely a powerhouse in Central Arkansas, and so he's going to come and talk to us about his experience and how he's made a difference in the Central Arkansas community. And then we also have Startup Weekend. So Startup Weekend is not coming until November the 11th, but what's great about that is that it gives those folks that have those wonderful ideas, but they're not sure if they want to start a business, an opportunity to come and pitch that business idea, but then also make sure that they've got the mentors around and people who can help them to really bring that idea to life. And this also happens on over a weekend period. And so it's a really cool program. And so if you know some people that are interested or have some great ideas in the areas of health technology, agricultural technology, as you know, health, ag, and just sometimes in general, if they have anything that they're thinking about starting a business on but don't know where to start and don't have the right resources, then this will be a great opportunity for them. All right, so I want to get into the meat of what we came here for today. So we have a short video to introduce you to our speakers, Lilla McManis from NeuroMedPro, and then also Rebecca Todd. And after we look at this video, then I'm going to pass the baton to them. And I want to remind you, as I get this loaded and up ready, if you have questions as we go through this presentation, you can put those questions in the chat, you can put those questions in the Q&A pane, and we'll make sure we get those answered by the speaker.
The mission of NeuroMedPro is to really bring a set of clinical tools in neuroscience. So our customers you can think about them as being the patients, particularly those who have a type of epilepsy that cannot be treated with drugs. We also want to see ourselves as providing tools for the clinicians, for the neurologist, for the neuroradiologist, and for the neurosurgeons.
I have been working with children who have seizures and tumors for almost 2 decades. I noticed that a significant number of patients were getting misdiagnosed And with my colleague, Dr. Fred Perkins, we started researching why we were misdiagnosing these patients and what we could do about it.
ASBTDC has been integral on our journey in entrepreneurship and in successfully launching NeuroMedPro. The resources, the commitment, helping us find our way, the feedback, so many ways have helped us be able to promote what it is we're trying to do, particularly in the state of Arkansas, which is very important to us. We really are Arkansas-based. We're committed to that, and ASBTDC has that mission as well. So it's been a really great partnership in that respect.
They have been instrumental in helping us identify state-sponsored funding opportunities, and they have put us in touch with consultants who have helped us in our application towards an SBIR grant.
ASBTDC was instrumental in helping us get a TTAG grant so that we could hire a professional grant writer, and that made all the difference.
I absolutely encourage all of my colleagues to reach out to ASBTDC in order to help understand how to move forward with their idea.
When you get started in forming a new company, if you've not done it before, it can be overwhelming. And to know that we had ASBTDC there in our corner was really nice. It gave us a level of confidence that I don't believe we would have had otherwise.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So at this time, I would like to go ahead and pass the baton. I think Rebecca's gonna get the conversation started. Rebecca, you can load your slides and get started.
Thank you, Pam. Just one moment, I'll get these pulled up here. Okay, is it showing just the main slide here now?
It is, but it's not in presentation mode.
Oh,
Now it needs to swap the screen. That's your.
okay. How about now? All right. Well, thanks again, Pam, for the introduction and for the opportunity to talk with your folks here today at Lift the Rock, along with my client with NeuroMedPro and Dale McManis. So I'm just here to tell you a little bit about our services at ASBTDC, and particularly what is the SBIR, a Small Business Innovation and Research Small Business Technology Transfer Program. And just to give you a taste of it, not going too in depth today. So here at ASBTDC, we're really focused on helping Arkansas-based entrepreneurs or established companies to turn their ideas into money makers and keep our homegrown talent here in the state. We work with all types of companies, from those that want to start a brand new business from scratch, those that are looking to expand and grow, maybe have a franchise opportunity. And the third type is my focus area, those that are wanting to commercialize new technology, whether it's a product or a service, and bring it from the idea stage all the way to selling to their customers. In the state of Arkansas, we have 10 different centers. Most of them have a university-based location. And so this allows us to serve our clientele wherever they're at, help make more convenient process for everyone. We most recently opened our office at UA Pine Bluff, and so that's our newest location. I should note also, I didn't really introduce myself as an innovation specialist. I'm working with companies all across the state because I'm serving a very niche field, helping those that are research-based companies. And so even though these are our territories, I'm able to work with anyone across the state of Arkansas. Just in the last year, these are some of the numbers that show the impact we've had on the state with our clients being successful in their goals. So I just want to highlight that the capital infusion, 181 new business starts, almost 13,000 jobs supported, and almost 400 million in increased sales. So we are a taxpayer-funded nonprofit entrepreneurial support organization. We are able to support clients with with whatever they're looking to do with their business, starting or growing, and all those things are offered at no charge because we are already funded through taxpayer dollars. Only thing you need to start working with us is to complete something called a request for counseling form, which is just a brief one-pager that only takes a few minutes to get started. And that allows us to create an internal record for you in our system. And after that, we're able to work with you one-on-one. We have events all throughout the year. Many of them are in person at our locations, and a lot of them are also virtual webinar type of formats on a variety of different topics, including my focus area with the federal funding opportunities. So you're welcome to come to our website and check the events site out and see what's coming up, or what we've already had. You can just go to our YouTube channel and to the playlist and see what we've recorded and archived there. As part of our consulting services, we offer market research. So in this process, we subscribe to a number of industry databases that allow us to get state-of-the-art information across a variety of fields, including scientific fields, and pull this most useful information for our clients in the form of custom tailored binders for them. And so they can use this information for anything from business planning to supporting a grant application. And it really helps to show that they've done their homework and knowing what the competition looks like, what's the trend for growth in their field, and what do their customers look like, what are the demographics, and how have they really assessed things like what the need is, what a good price point might be for their technology or their product that they're hoping to develop. So some of this information, it could cost thousands of dollars to access on your own, but we're able to also provide that free of charge through our industry databases as part of consulting. For those of you that are thinking about a brick and mortar location, we also have geographic information services that allow us to map out different regions and show you things like drive times, where your competitors are physically located, and things like that as well. And my focus, as I mentioned before, is on those technology-based companies that have a need to do usually some long-term research and development work in order to get their product or service ready for the commercial market. So just want to mention that we don't just help with usually one specific goal. We often help clients with every aspect of starting and maintaining their business, and that usually entails different types of focus areas over the course of time. So a lot of times I'll work with a client on one certain application for state or federal funding, and then continue working with them on different opportunities, preparing market strategy planning, and maybe helping also to identify potential team members as well. So definitely we are here for the long haul with you to help you all through the course of successfully having a sustainable company in the state of Arkansas. I want to move briefly also into the Small Business Innovation Research and Technology Transfer Program, which is really my focus area for helping companies that are interested in obtaining funding to make their technology commercial ready. This is the single largest source of money for new research and development work by small businesses and their partners. So to be more specific, this is about a $4 billion a year opportunity when you look at all the different agencies that participate in this program, which there are 11 agencies in SBIR. There are some caveats to the program. So for example, you do need to have a proposal that's responsive to one of the agency's interest areas, which they call research topics. And so that's one of the starting points, is to see what topics they consider to be critical need areas based on what their staff have gone out into the field to discover. These are the issues that are challenging for the people that we care about. And then these are also things that align with our mission and objectives. And so that's a starting point, is to see where you can fit into a given agency's research topics. The STTR program is comprised of the 5 largest agencies that are in the SBIR program. This program was recently reauthorized. Any of you that keep up with the news in this specific region of interest, this is something that's it's never been a piece of permanent legislation, but it's always been maintained through reauthorizations. So just in the last week, it was reauthorized for another 3 years. And so it's still going strong, lots of support generally from both sides of the political spectrum. But the goals of this program, as one that has oversight by the Small Business Administration, definitely to create new jobs and companies in the US, develop new innovation for market, which can look a little bit different depending on the agency, what they consider to be the most the topics that they consider to be most relevant to their mission are going to look different across the different agencies. Like Department of Defense is going to be different than USDA, for example. It's also a great way to engage talent from the business side as well as the research institution level side. In the process, you're identifying and responding to these agency needs that maybe the larger companies just don't have the bandwidth or the interest to find the solutions for those. Oftentimes, small businesses are willing to take that time and the risk to do so. And then this is also a great way for scientists to learn the language of business. I work with a lot of pure scientists that have always been in their specific field, and they don't really have a lot of exposure to how to talk about the business, the value proposition that they're bringing to their customer in terms of money savings, time, ease of integration into the workflow, and those kind of things that are really important to customers, more so maybe than the technical details about how it works and what makes it especially unique compared to other things in that field of science. So this is a great opportunity for them to learn how to talk about those things that are most important to their customers too. These awards are not a loan. They are either a grant or a contract. And so it's essentially free money that the government will give a company and their partners that doesn't have to be repaid. It doesn't take any ownership away from the company either. But there are expectations in terms of the performance on the work. The company needs to perform what they propose to do and show the government in the form of usually a final report that this is what we have accomplished in the first phase of the program, demonstrate success, and then they have opportunity to keep moving through the program. Usually you start in phase 1, which is proof of concept feasibility work, and then you move into phase 2. Both are the competitive rounds of funding. In phase 2, you have more money and time to really fully develop a prototype, to optimize it, test it out, hopefully in the actual customer's environment to make sure it really works according to their needs. And by the end of phase 2, you're ready to sell to your customers and no longer need SBIR, STTR dollars to move in that direction. To date, our center has helped clients win 84 awards through this program. And these are some examples of national programs that all got their start through the SBIR, STTR program. Qualcomm, if you use any type of technology like a cell phone, you're usually using their technology every single day. And then Symantec is the largest maker of security software. They were the very first recipient of an SBIR grant, and they were able to use the money through this program to create their breakthrough product Q&A software. Many of you probably familiar with iRobot Corporation. This company was founded by Massachusetts Institute of Technology roboticists who wanted to make practical robots a reality. They started out through this program developing technology for the Department of Defense, which is called a PackBot, to help with dangerous surveillance operations to protect the warfighter. But from there, they were able to go to the commercial market with the Roomba, that was a home vacuuming system. So this is a complex program, lots of different steps from start to finish to make sure you are a strong fit for it, to drafting your proposal and responding to all the agency criteria, develop all the supplemental pieces as well. And we help you with all those things. We don't write it for you, but we provide tons of guidance, lots of reviews of your proposal drafts, and help you get it out the door as well. I began working with the NeuroMedPro team about 2 years ago, and services that we provided, including proposal planning, market research, identifying potential advisors for their team. We also began exploring funding opportunities, for example, the National Institutes of Health STTR program. And as you saw in the video, also looked at the Arkansas Economic Development Commission's state level funding, which was the Technology Transfer Assistance Grant and the Technology Development Program. Part of what we do is also just to highlight success of our companies. And so we wanted to make a video highlighting NeuroMedPro and their work that they do to help them get the word out about their great mission and help them inspire other companies as well that are in this medical space for technology. We have a newsletter that goes out every month called Lab to Launch, and it highlights other success stories in our state, as well as upcoming funding opportunities all across the SBIR, STTR agencies, new programming or training events that we're offering. And so if you want to join our list, you can either use this link here, or you can easily find it through our website, the place where you can click on subscribe to our newsletters. I'm not going to play this here because I know I have limited time, but I wanted to share this slide that I'll also pass on to Pam. You can check out some specific examples of our SBIR, STTR client success stories through this video that we have that highlights them. And they have a range of different industry areas, so it's a good representation of different kinds of work that's going on in the state. And with that, I just want to thank you all for your time. I'm happy to take any questions either now or at the very end, whichever more convenient. And you can reach me at this information here to ask any follow-up questions as well, to start a conversation there. Thank you again for your time and interest.
So Rebecca, thank you so much. We don't have any questions at this time, so we are ready to hear from you, Dr. McManis.
All right, hello everyone. I'm going to get my slides up, hopefully. There we go. All right. Okay, so if you cannot see my slides in presentation mode, just let me know.
We can see your slides and presentation.
Okay. All right. Well, Pam, thank you so much for inviting me, and Rebecca put us forward to be a part of today's event. And my name, as you've heard, is Dale McManis, and I'm the CEO of NeuroMedPro. And I'm glad that Rebecca did her presentation first, because I feel like what I'm going to be able to do is put that into reality for you and give you some examples of what all of the things that she talked about being able to provide look like. So I'm going to talk about what our company does and how we got started, and then spend most of the time talking about how ASBTDC has helped us. And then also Pam asked me to give some advice at the end for others who might want to do something similar. All right. So NeuroMedPro is made up of 3 people, myself and my husband, Mark McManis, who you saw. We are both founders, and then our colleague, Dr. Fred Perkins. So it is the 3 of us, and we have been both friends and colleagues for over 20 years now. So it's really very interesting that our relationship has progressed and matured to the point where we now can have a business together. So it's very exciting for us. And essentially, our mission is to do best of class neurodiagnostic tools. And we have a tagline that it's created by clinicians for clinicians. And the reason for that is because Mark and Fred have had many instances of where they had a problem and needed to use a tool, and they couldn't find a solution that they really liked. And a lot of times it either didn't exist or it had been created in such a way that it wasn't easy for clinicians to use. So you might have software engineers or bioengineers or even administrators creating tools that just don't understand the workflow. So that's what we're really about. And we want to focus in on clinical decision-making, particularly in the field of neurology. And our mechanism is artificial intelligence or machine learning. This is really gaining momentum. There's so much promise, and we just feel like this is a very compelling area. And so that is what we are doing. The needs that our company addresses, currently we're really focused in on the condition of epilepsy. And we have identified a need that there are a lot of gaps in being able to detect and predict certain kinds of lesions, and also to be able to predict and detect seizures so that there can be better treatment decisions made for patients. Epilepsy is a disease that really impacts patients in so many ways that we might not think of. Everything from, can you drive? Can you go to that birthday party? Are you going to be able to complete school? Will you be able to work? And so, really trying to help people have a better quality of life is what we are about. And to be able to have cutting edge diagnostic tools, as you saw in the video, there's a lot of misdiagnosis in the area that we're working on. And also we're learning that there is a neurologist shortage. So there are a lot of communities across the country that are rural, that are under resourced, and they're not going to have access to epileptologists. So those are some of the needs that NeuroMedPro is interested in addressing. So I want to just chat a moment. You saw some of this in the video. What is our flagship solution, as I'm calling it? And I'm calling it that because it's really the first one out of the gate for us. And it is to detect a certain kind of lesion in the brain that causes seizures and cannot be treated by medication. And it's very difficult to detect this particular kind of lesion due to where it is in the brain. And so it's missed a lot of the time. And so by using artificial intelligence and showing a computer, hey, this is what it looks like. And the computer can say, okay, I understand that. And then you put in a new image and it can do a comparison, so to speak, and give you a probability. So that's essentially what artificial intelligence is. It might sound scary in medicine, but we always have to remember that it always goes back to human beings making these actual decisions and then using computers. So don't get tired. It can do a lot of work for you to carry that out. So the reason that we think that this ideas is going to be a good one is because it really alleviates the burden on neuroradiologists, expands access, as I mentioned. It also provides income to hospitals. You know, you may have seen in the news that hospitals are really suffering financially. Yes, they have to charge a lot of money, but it takes so much money to run a hospital. And so by having brain surgery, which in this instance, that's the best treatment for this condition, it actually brings a lot of dollars into hospitals so that they can stay financially healthy and they can continue to serve their communities. And finally, it sets the stage for us to apply using machine learning to other kinds of detection. So we're looking at lesions and seizures, but we might look at tumors, Alzheimer's, autism. There are a lot of opportunities going forward. And so we do have some pipeline products coming in. One is seizure detection and prediction. Sometimes a seizure can actually be subtle. I mean, when we think about someone having a seizure, we probably think of it as being a big event. But that's not always the case. They can be quite subtle, but that doesn't mean that they're not doing a lot of damage to the brain. And so we actually have a research study looking at being able to predict seizures in infants who are in the NICU. And another thing Mark is very interested in doing is using virtual reality for surgical planning. So you can imagine that if you can get all of this additional information about the brain and you can provide that to your neurology team by being able to see things that we can't see as easily just with our normal eyes and vision, you can take the brain, you can spin it around, you can do contrast, you can do a lot of things so that when a surgeon goes in to do a resection, which is taking out the bad part of the brain, they're going to have a much better idea about what they're dealing with. So those are some of the things that we're also working on. Okay. So that's about NeuroMedPro. Now I want to move into our path to entrepreneurship and to launching NeuroMedPro. And this flow starts at the bottom and kind of goes up. So for us, the first level, and this was before we ever thought about maybe doing anything like running a business, although I have had an interest in industry for a very long time, but to get our basic academic training. Mark and I are PhDs and Fred is an MD. So, you know, understanding what our field is. And then we all moved into academia, and Mark and Fred are also clinicians. And so the idea is, how do you address problems and issues in a way that is empirically based, research-based, sort of logical, and you're using kind of a scientific methodology to think about what it is that you're doing. And then for myself, I actually started to kind of veer off into industry. But all through my academic career, I was very involved in working on management information systems, large databases that captured information from federally or state funded programs to be able to demonstrate that this money was being used. And so I started working with software developers probably about 30 years ago, really enjoyed it. And so when I got an opportunity to go into educational technology, it was with a company that essentially sold school supplies and decided that they wanted to start building some software for early learners. And this was right when touch became available on the market. And again, creating software, working with software developers. And from there, I moved into the startup world with a company that was a telehealth startup who wanted to really essentially bring more than cough, cold, flu, as we called it. It was more of a holistic approach. So had lots of different kinds of providers, as well as things like educators and massage therapists and everything you can think about. And again, working hand in hand with software developers. So so kind of toward the tail end of that is when I started hearing Mark and Fred talk about, well, there's nothing available on the market to help us do these particular tasks and solve these problems. So we're going to do it ourselves. And they did. They started just doing it in their own lab. And I began thinking, well, and they were getting good success and excited about it. And I thought, well, if there's nothing on the market, perhaps we could commercialize your work. And we started talking about it and decided that we would continue to explore that. So at the time we were actually in Texas. We have been in Tennessee as well. We were in Texas, and we decided to go out and start talking to people and seeing what would sort of hit the wall and stick. And as many of you maybe are thinking about entrepreneurship, you may know that Austin, Texas is kind of styling itself to be the next tech hub. And so we went to a lot of events, but I have to say that actually there wasn't a lot of substance yet. People were having a good time meeting in beautiful spaces and talking a lot, but there really wasn't any real substance. And I just got the feeling that if you weren't really bold and loud and brash or extremely well connected, that you weren't going to get the attention. And we were really neither of those things. So then we got the opportunity to come to Little Rock, and Fred came, and he is the chief of pediatric neurology. And he very much wanted Mark to join him because they have been working together for all these years. And so we brought Mark to University of Arkansas Medical School and to Arkansas Children's Hospital to start talking about innovation in health tech and the ideas that he had. And so they created a position for him as director of neurodiagnostic innovation, not only to commercialize his own ideas, but to help other faculty and clinicians do the same. And it was at that time that we moved into the connecting part, where Mark got connected with a lot of people here. For example, BioVentures, which is the tech transfer arm of UAMS. We became a company that is being mentored by Health Tech Arkansas, and we met Rebecca. And Mark started working with Rebecca before I kind of came into the picture. But, you know, it's just a relationship that, as she said, it's been about 2 years now, and it's just continued to evolve. So that connecting piece was key. And then I'd have to say, finally, just a leap of faith. And so that's how NeuroMedPro came to be. They have facilitated us in some very concrete ways. You know, Rebecca talked about that she helps not just a proposal, but it's the whole picture. And I have to tell you, that's absolutely true. You know, there's a lot of pieces to starting a business and getting something off the ground. And if you don't have a good roadmap, you find yourself kind of lost. You don't know where you are and where you need to go. So she's been fantastic helping us with that. And as she mentioned, connecting to funding opportunities has been something that she has done and continues to do. In fact, we just had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about a potential opportunity. And then, as she said, reviewing applications. You know, we talk about people here, oh, that's free money. Well, yes, it is, but you do work for it. And one of the ways you work for it is these are massive applications. They're very complex, and there's a lot of moving parts. And also, depending on where you are submitting for potential money, you need to craft your message in a certain way. And so because Rebecca's so familiar with these various funding opportunities and the people on the other side making the decisions, she can help you craft your message to fit. And then I would say exposure. You saw the video. I'm here today for an example, and there have been a number of things where she's given us an opportunity, and her team has, to talk to people about what NeuroMedPro does. I also want to take a moment to talk about the nuanced stuff. Okay, so when you start a business and you are not a serial entrepreneur, and we are not, there's a lot of things that are under the surface that you might not be prepared for. A steep learning curve, how do you go forward? This idea of keeping momentum, but then you only have limited capacity because you're a small team. Staying patient, it takes time because, as Rebecca said, when you're coming from sort of that research and empirical base out into the market, it can be a very long process and path. Also, self-promotion. A lot of academics and clinicians tend to kind of be a little conservative. They don't want to overstate. And so to be able to learn how to talk about your endeavor in a way that is palatable to other people and that you're comfortable with is something that you need to learn. And Rebecca has been great at that, helping us just process all of these things. And of course, inevitably, rejection. Being that cheerleader, okay, maybe that didn't work out, but let's keep going. And so as a result, here's some of the things we've been able to accomplish. We talked about the TTAG grant. We have gotten a Technology Development Program Award. We also have a Catalyst grant for the Arkansas Children's Research Institute, and this is all for commercialization. And we did do an STTR grant early on to NIH, and we did not get funded. We didn't get terribly embarrassed. We learned a lot, and we actually were able to take much of that to roll into more local funding. And, Rebecca talked about non-dilutive funding, and that is a goal that we have as well. But now we're going back around, we've recovered and we are going back through, and we have a federal grant now, and it's with the National Science Foundation. It's called ICOR, and it is intensive customer discovery, because the last thing you want to do is believe that if you build it, they will come. So those are the grants and the funding that we've gotten to do our work, and we've been able to accomplish this in under 2 years. So now we have a working prototype that's well on its way. As I said, we're doing our customer discovery, and we're setting the stage for another application for STTR or SBIR. And in closing, my advice is just those connections. There's nothing really more important. Also asking for help. You need to do your homework. Absolutely. Give it your best try, but don't just get stuck. There are resources for you, and the ASBTDC is an excellent resource. I would say practice speaking about what you're doing. You never know when someone's going to walk up, and it's funny about the researchers. They will talk to you for 15 or 20 minutes about their work, when really someone just wanted a 30-second answer. And so it takes some time to learn how to be that kind of person, being gracious about feedback. People don't always have the whole story, or maybe they are a little bit critical, but they're taking the time to talk to you about what they're thinking about what you're saying. And there's probably a kernel of truth in that. And then not getting overwhelmed, taking it in bite-sized chunks, just kind of what's in front of me, how does it fit into the big picture? Because I think a lot of solo and small companies, they just jump around from one thing to another, and they actually never accomplish anything. And then finally, building in recovery time. All of this is new, whether it is a grant proposal that just took you 6 months, or whether it's learning QuickBooks like I'm having to learn for tax purposes, or maybe it's rejection. Whatever it may be, this takes a lot out of you. And I think if you will build in recovery time, you will be able to be refreshed to keep moving forward. And finally, I would love to connect as well. And here is my information. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity.
That is absolutely fascinating. Thanks so much, Dr. McManis, for sharing your experience with the ASBTDC. And thanks so much, Rebecca, for talking a little bit more about the SBIR, STTR program and all of its different nuances. One of the questions, and I think sometimes it scares people, is just how detailed and lengthy the process is. What could you say to kind of, I guess, encourage people to take advantage of these wonderful programs that might have some apprehension?
I guess I'll start. What I would say is I always start folks out with just some like they'll describe it, the bite-sized chunks. So you first want to do some exploration to see what topics might be out there that might be a fit for your idea. And that's a matter of doing a keyword search in a couple of different sites to see what's out there, which I guide clients through that process. See what's already been funded as well, to make sure you're not duplicating something that's already received some kind of a SBIR STTR award and just hasn't hit the market just yet. And then another manageable step is just to communicate your idea to the agency on whatever format that they prefer, to get their initial feedback, and so that they can also confirm that, yes, this does appear to be a fit for our research area, for our mission, and they might even give you some guidance on how to modify it to be a stronger potential competitor for their funding. So those are great starting points just to get your feet in the water, to see if this is the right program for you before you start writing a very comprehensive application that responds to those topics.
Awesome. Dr. McManis, I think you kind of touched on this, but I might have missed it. I know that the product is intended to help identify a difficult form of epilepsy that's hard, that doctors can, rarely find, and using AI and all of that. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the progress that you've seen in those different areas? I think you mentioned about five different, you mentioned other doctors, hospitals that could benefit from it. Obviously, people benefit from it, but can you talk a little bit about the progress in that respect?
Sure. So I think you're asking me like who would maybe benefit from what we're doing. Yeah. And who our customers are. That's a really great question. And that's one of the reasons that customer discovery is important, because who you think your customer is might be a little different once you get into the process. So we can think of our customer as being the patient who's going to benefit from this being used. We can think of our customer as being the neuroradiologist who reads that first MRI, or the neurosurgeon who's going to carry out the surgery. We can think about our customer as being the hospital who's actually going to purchase and agree to purchase this product. So sometimes it's not as straightforward as you think. And so there are benefits across the board. So hospitals are going to get more efficient workflow. They're going to bring in more money because they'll do more surgeries that are appropriate. They'll have a service that they can offer and that other people might not have the capability. So, we've seen an explosion in telehealth. So let's just take an example. Let's say that we are a spinoff, by the way, of UAMS, and Arkansas Children's. But let's say that there is a hospital in Oklahoma that is in a very remote place, and there are patients all over the place. Epilepsy does not, honor geography. And let's say we have a 10-year-old child who's come in, who's had seizures for 3 years and has been on 3 medications, and the seizures are not controlled. Goodness, what do? Do we send that patient and his family for a week after they've been on a wait list for 6 months to come to Arkansas Children's Hospital, which is a level 4 epilepsy center, and be in the epilepsy monitoring unit, all hooked up to electrodes, and all of this only to determine? Or could we simply take an MRI, which is easily done in most hospitals or diagnostic centers, run that through an algorithm and get a determination of, hey, we might be looking at something called focal cortical dysplasia. That's the medical term for this particular kind of lesion. Okay, now we know something. Now we know, yes, we need to send this child to a specialist in Little Rock, in Houston, in Memphis, wherever it may be. So that's the kind of scenario. So I can say our customers are hospitals and diagnostic centers and neurologists and patients, but I wanted to just give the flavor of what it is that we want to accomplish on the ground on a day-to-day basis. I hope that helps.
That definitely helps. Okay, so I want to go over to Josh, who works with us, works with me and our marketing team, and just make sure we don't have any questions in the Q&A pane before we get ready to run to a close. Josh may be there. Well, while Josh is waiting to respond to that, I think that I'd like to move to a close by saying I think your product is a great example of the type of innovation that we're hoping to see at our TechStars Startup Weekend on November the 11th. And I think some of the things you've talked about definitely can help people, kind of break down some of that apprehension and understand that it is doable. And so I appreciate you jumping on to talk about it. And so I want to thank our sponsors again. We had the Little Rock Regional Chamber. We've got Frost Accounting, Wright Lindsay Jennings. And so if you need anything from me, please don't hesitate. And we're going to wrap this thing up. Rebecca, Dale, you have anything else you'd like to say today?
I do want to add a caveat to what Rebecca said. It was not necessarily a caveat, but what she said was, there's so much out there. How do you know where to start? And what I have learned, I'm the type of person, I don't know, when I get into something new, I like to know everything. I want the whole picture. But what I've actually learned by having the right mentors and the right people to guide us through this process is that they actually know better than I do when it's time for me to go to the next step. So I want to encourage everyone to really think about that. When you have a mentor, they're going to be working with you on a day-to-day basis, but they're going to be thinking about you in the long term and help you walk through that. And so you don't have to have all the answers before you start. They will come.
And I'm definitely happy to talk with anyone separately that wants to learn more about this SBIR STTR program and how that might be a good resource for their ideas as well. And as I've mentioned, in Dale too, we also help with the state funding opportunities, which are not quite as complex, but still good gap funding to help you move through the different stages of development work.
Awesome. I just want to acknowledge something in the chat. Laura Fine says, Dale, you're doing important work. Thank you for sharing your story today and for your nice comments about Rebecca and the ASBTDC. And thank you so much, Laura. And before we get out of here today, I just want to also acknowledge Simmons Bank is one of our sponsors, and we thank them for promoting this program and being a part of it with us as well. Everyone have a great day. Talk to you soon.